You see the look on my face, you see the disappointment, you see the shame, and then here's a man who listened to his friend Kenzo. You see the difference? You see the joy, the happiness, the sheer amount of, I can't believe I was a fool.
Bruh.
Thinking about going to Japan, home of the samurai, land of the geisha, homes of tons of different temples and places like that. Japan is one of the places that's near and dear to my heart, so I thought I would come up with 10 tips that would help you have a non-trash trip to Japan. So one of the first things you want to consider before you go to Japan is the time of year you're going to be traveling. If you're weak against the heat, don't like sweating, don't like humidity, summer's probably not for you. It's a good time to do a lot of summer activities, go out to different places or whatever, but it is mad hot. When I'm saying hot, I'm not talking like your average level of hot, I'm talking intensely hot. So if you maybe from like Florida or a place like that, might be good for you, but otherwise could be tough. Fall, great food, beautiful fall foliage, a little bit more temperate, probably my favorite time of year to go to Japan. Absolutely love fall. Wintertime, haven't spent too much time in Japan during the winter, only like the start of it, like December, but you can go to Nagano, check out the snow monkeys. There's a lot of different landscapes that change in the wintertime. You can go north up to Sapporo if you love skiing or snowboarding. Definitely recommend there, but more so if you're into winter sports and maybe being outdoors and seeing some of the different landscapes change. Spring, an awesome time to be in Japan. You got cherry blossoms, things are coming back. It's the beginning of a lot of stuff that's happening in Japan, but it's probably one of the busiest times of the year in Japan, given that so many people want to see the cherry blossoms and all that kind of stuff. Also, another date to maybe avoid is Golden Week. A lot of people in Japan have a week off and they enjoy holidays, they travel or whatever, but a lot of people come to Japan, and so it's also like super crowded. So things to think about in terms of pricing, hotel, all that kind of stuff. Just some tips for if you want to go to Japan, think about the time you go. So one of the things you might want to do before you go to Japan is plan your trip around a theme. Really what it is unless you're like Luffy, who just loves adventure, or Goku, who loves adventure, you see a theme here. And realistically, you're probably more like everyone else, where you want a solid plan that makes sense. Again, if you are one of those people, no knock, but I'm just saying, most of us actually aren't like that. And so I'd wager you probably are the latter. So why do you want to plan your trip around the theme? Well, really, you don't have as much time as you probably think. You're gonna probably lose some time to jet lag and being exhausted. You're trying to figure out the lay of the land of the city. And so if you're just kind of wandering around, you might not actually get to do all the things that you want to do. The other side of it is if you kind of plan out your days based on your hobbies and interests, it makes the trip kind of go a bit smoother. So maybe one day is anime. So you go see the Ghibli Museum, or you go to Akihabara or something like that. Like if you're in Tokyo, Kyoto, the Manga Museum. If you like temples and shrines, maybe check out those in the cities or whatever that you go to. But just kind of gives your trip a bit of a framework and kind of gives you some, an edge in making sure you plan, ahead accordingly or whatever. And also, if you've traveling with more than one person, like in a group, everybody's interests aren't going to be the same. Well, one person might think that shrines are absolutely boring, and one person might want to just spend all day in an arcade. So you don't want to end up like me, where you're trying to figure out what everybody's going to want to do on each day. It would have helped if we would have planned beforehand. So as you're planning your trip, maybe you kind of think about it in different themes and kind of mix and match whatever your interests and hobbies are first. Then you have the makings of an awesome trip. So tip 4 is cash is king, baby. You know what I'm saying? No, all jokes aside, Japan is still largely a cash-based society. So I was honestly surprised when I was there in August of this year, like going to 7-Eleven, my mind was blown. And I tell you, blown that I could actually swipe my credit card. Because in the past, when I was like 13, I didn't have a credit card back then, but I probably wouldn't have been able to use it anyway. But yeah, there's a lot more places that do accept credit cards. But for instance, I just went to Nikko. And if you've never been to Nikko, you get a chance to go, you can do it in a day trip from Tokyo. If you want to slow it down, probably do a night in Nikko just so you get to see everything. But the yuba soba I had, fire. The restaurant didn't take credit. You know what I had? Cash. It saved my life. So if you ever plan on going outside some of the major hubs and major cities, make sure you have some cash on hand. Keep them dollars close. You know what I mean? Another point that's kind of dovetailing off of the last about making sure you carry cash is making sure you purchase an IC card. There's a few different brands like Suica, Passmo, but basically what it is it's a prepaid card that you can use to get on trains, to get on buses. Outside of that, what you can use it for is to go to 7-Eleven, 7-Eleven is bomb in Japan, by the way. If you've never heard that from anybody or they say anything different, they lying to you. They are lying to you. It's better than any convenience store you've ever been to outside of the other ones that exist in Japan. But I still think it's better than those two. But in any case, you can use this prepaid card to basically get loaded with money at the vending machine like this. You go in, you tap it, there's English options, and you charge the card. And so, like I said, you can use it for trains, you can use it for buses, you can use it to go to the convenience store, you can use it at vending machines. It's kind of like a universal payment gateway, I guess, if that's the best way to say it. All right, so this next thing is just probably important when you travel anywhere, is picking up a little bit of the language, or at least studying some phrases or whatever. It's just a general rule of thumb where if you go somewhere, you should probably study just a little bit of the language if they don't speak the language you primarily speak. In Japan, speaking a little bit of Japanese definitely goes a long way. People will go out of their way to encourage you to honestly do it. You might hear these sugois or jozu or nihongo wa sugoi desu ne toka. Like, you can hear that kind of stuff, and people will generally, I don't know, it makes you feel kind of good to hear like people praising you. I don't know, it makes me feel a little good, even if it's not true and they go home and roast you later. At the very least, in the moment, you have felt like, hey, I was able to make a connection with somebody. And that's what travel is all about, right? Making connection with people, doing different things. So here are a few phrases that could probably help you. 1, sumimasen. Sumimasen means excuse me. Like, if you're on the train, you want to get off or whatever, say that. People immediately turn around and let you go through. Konnichiwa, kind of basic. You know, most people use it as good afternoon. It can just mean hi or hello. It doesn't always necessarily mean, it isn't dependent on the time of day. Daijoubu desu, meaning you're okay. The last one I'd probably say, big one, arigatou gozaimasu. You can say arigato, but it comes off a little more casual. If you add the gozaimasu part, it's a bit formal and can be universally used with other people. So that's arigato gozaimasu. And so, yeah, make sure you pick up some of these phrases. I know you're gonna have your phone, but hey, there's times where maybe your phone isn't working the way that you need it to be. So I'd even recommend having something like a little phrase book. I know that's old school in 2023, but just something you can pull out your pocket. If you find yourself in trouble or need some help, then you got some, I don't know, ability to do that. So this is one of the tips that honestly changed my life. I used to work as a travel consultant. I didn't know this existed. It's luggage. Luggage forwarding in Japan is a thing. So what is luggage forwarding? I'm telling you, if you've never been on a Japanese train at 5 p.m. on a rainy day, so everybody's riding the Yamanote line, and you packed in the train, and you got your book bag stuck on your back, you will appreciate the beauty of luggage forwarding. So essentially, when you fly into Japan, you're probably gonna land at a Narita Haneda airport, right? So what you're gonna do is, when you get in, you're gonna take your luggage to the luggage counter. It's probably gonna be Yamato Unyu. Like, there are other luggage forwarding services, but I think they're the most popular. And you can essentially fill out a form. Everybody at the airport generally speaks English and can help. If not, if you've got your phone, phrase book, whatever, you can probably get by just fine. So you fill out this form and you can send your luggage to the hotel where you're gonna be staying, or Airbnb. So you can forward your luggage to this place, have it forwarded to the place where you're gonna be staying. Typically what I do is maybe have a backpack of maybe one night change of clothes, because it takes usually 24, no more than 48 hours. And your bags will meet you where you're gonna be staying. And so you can do this all around Japan. Most places you can go to a 7-Eleven, and also they use the same kind of luggage forwarding service, so you can take your bags there. The other thing you're gonna wanna do is make sure you have a bag that's not oversized. So I know as Americans, we like to have those massive travel bags where you put your snacks, your shoes, 50 hoodies, whatever, all kinds of unnecessary stuff. You're gonna wanna have like a carry-on size bag, so something maybe equivalent of like this. You can see this pretty well, or a medium-sized travel suitcase, something like this. Just because, you know, there's a lot of limited space in Japan. Things are not like they are in Texas, where they're super large. So it's better to be mindful of that when you're traveling, because I'm telling you, trains are gonna be smaller than you think, hotels are gonna be smaller than you think, streets are smaller than you think. So it's just better to not have like cumbersome luggage as you're moving along or whatever, because it's gonna be hard. And if you go during the summer, because you're a lunatic, you're gonna be sweating and ready to faint on the street. So, and people won't help you because they're gonna say it was your fault and you dishonored yourself. Not actually, people will probably be really helpful because it's Japan, but still embarrassing. To my parents, I'm a new dad, recently took my 1-year-old to Japan with my wife, my buddy, his wife, and their 2-year-old. I don't recommend doing that. So if you have a friend that's like, hey, let's travel with our babies to Japan, find a new friend, because they're not really your friend. All jokes aside, it was a stressful trip, but we made it happen. One of the biggest things I can tell you as a parent that you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna make sure you use your baby carrier instead of your stroller. Now, here's a picture of me, a man, who decided to use his stroller. You see the look on my face? You see the disappointment? You see the shame? And then here's a man who repented of his sins and decided to use the baby carrier and listen to his friend Kenzo. You see the difference? You see the joy, the happiness, the sheer amount of, I can't believe I was a fool and had this stroller with me. Bruh. Yeah, you see that? Yeah. So be like that version of Desmond, not the sad stroller version. If you have to have a stroller, I'd recommend something like the Baby Jogger. It's pretty small, collapsible. You can kind of carry with you. It wasn't absolutely terrible, but when you go to Japan, you got to think things are going to be different than where you are in the world probably right now. So a lot of train stations and stuff like that, while they do have elevators, they can be pretty crowded, overwhelming, and busy. So it's going to be hard maybe to find elevators. A lot of times you're going to have to wait on the platform. And so it can just slow things down. And some things about Japan that are, if you don't know this already, is trains are on time. So like you gotta get to the train on time. It's not like, some places here where the train is 15 minutes late and it's all good. Like if the train is leaving at 1:01, the train is leaving at 1:01. So just something to be mindful of. The other thing is carrying disposable bags. Nobody wants the nasty baby doo-doo in their public trash can, which there are very few of anyway. So just something to think about. To my ladies that are going to Japan, Japan is a fantastic place. And if you're wondering, will I be safe traveling as a woman in Japan? The answer is definitely yes. However, I will tell you, don't do things that you wouldn't normally do in your own country. Just because Japan is safe does not mean that Japan doesn't have crime. If in your own country at 2 a.m. you wouldn't be sauced walking down a dark alley by yourself, you probably don't want to be sauced walking down a dark alley at 2 a.m. in Japan by yourself. You might also notice when you ride trains that they're women-only cars. So there is some risque behavior that happens in the part of some of the gentlemen in Japan. So just something to be mindful of. Like if you feel more comfortable riding a woman's only car during rush hour, during busy times, like early times in the morning, times in the evening when people are returning home from work, definitely something to consider. There you can read lots of unfortunate stories about women who've maybe been groped. Again, it's not like every person is out here doing this, but I've definitely been seeing them out with my own eyes. A young lady riding up an escalator, some dudes come out, they take some pictures of her skirt and disappear like they were straight out of the Hidden Leaf Village. So something to be mindful of to my ladies that are traveling. Definitely a safe place to go, one of the safest places in the world, but just, be mindful. So probably the last point that I want to make, and arguably the most important, I think, is when you go to Japan, you're going to want to keep an open mind. Japan can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so in your mind, you might have a particular expectation of what you think Japan is supposed to be like. And it might not match that expectation at all. That's just sometimes how it is. Like, you might think that if you're on a train, you feel like I'm traveling for the first time, I'm excited to be in Japan, whatever. And, that scene is kind of a disturbance in Japan. So one of the things that I was taught from a very young age of being able to travel abroad, specifically going to Japan. I've been going to Japan since I was 13. I'm in my early 30s now. Worked in Japan, dated in Japan, all sorts of things, went to school in Japan. The most important lesson I still find is just, even if you don't agree with something, you can still respect the culture. You might feel like it's annoying that there's not a lot of trash cans on the street, and most people carry their trash home. Like that's a thing, and so you might not always agree with certain things, but in the same way that you would want to be respected, you want to respect the culture. So just make sure you follow that and are respectful at all times. So if you like that video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Thanks. Peace.